Audiobook Academy Biography presents NICCOLO Machiavelli. He is the father of political science, is the subject of this book. His groundbreaking insight that politics is an experiential science overturned the medieval belief that people should serve God and elevate power in their interests to the nation. Machiavelli, an Italian Renaissance thinker, is known for two things. As an example of how to rule a state, it is frequently quoted. However, others believe him to be an exceedingly cynical advisor to politicians of the past whose primary gauge was not morality but power and money. Let's discover the identity of this intriguing individual. Childhood and education. NICCOLO Machiavelli's life during this period is not widely known. On May 3, 1469, he was born in a little town in the Republic of Florence, where he was raised. Lawyer Bernardo, his father, was a well-known figure in the community. NICCOLO's classical education was largely self-taught, despite the fact that he was raised by private tutors. In Latin, he read Titus Livius and Cicero, two of Rome's greatest writers. Lists of his interests in history and politics were prominent from a young age. As indicated by his contact with influential persons of the time, for example, critical comments on Savonarola's actions in Florence, he attempted to intervene in his native state in a dynamic manner. Claims by his biographers that he had a high brow and thin lips are widely accepted. His snarky grin is a well-known feature of his persona. This person's life unfolded during a particularly trying period for Florence, when several bordering countries took advantage of a volatile political climate to attempt to annex Italian territories. In the absence of a centralized power structure, strikes took place on a regular basis. Even from the beginning of his career, NICCOLO Machiavelli used questionable practices. Even though he publicly attacked Savonarola in private letters, he was supported by him and took his first public position as a result. Machiavelli was re-elected as Prime Minister of Florence thanks to the fact that Prime Minister Marcello Adriani was Machiavelli's tutor. On behalf of the Republic, NICCOLO went on diplomatic missions around the world for the first 10 years of the 16th century. He was able to wed a representative of his social circle in 1501. Machiavelli-NICCOLO achieved a level of wealth that allowed him to do so. The marriage was a financial and familial success. 5 children were born to NICCOLO and his wife, yet he was still kind to many foreign beauty. Cesare Borgia, a legendary adventurer and military commander, struck him with his ability to appear to extend his possessions at every chance. He was in his employ for a year. An essay on an ideal ruler who could masterfully pursue his goals regardless of morals came to him at this point. NICCOLO was compelled to return to Florence after Pope Alexander Borgia's death in 1503 left Father Cesare without a means of support. At the end of his diplomatic trip, in Rome, to influence the new pope's agenda, he dealt with the internal structure of the Republic and its military strength. In particular, he is credited with introducing the concept of a professional military, see Art of War. The notion he tested in Florence and proved to be correct led to the creation of a new city-state called Pisa. The celebration for Machiavelli-NICCOLO lasted until 1512. When the Medici family was driven from Florence at the end of the 15th century by French soldiers, Pope Julius II was able to escape from the Italian Republic's French soldiers. Lorenzo's son Giovanni returned to his inheritance and began to dismantle those who resisted his family after he had liquidated the Republic. Another victim of reprisals was NICCOLO Machiavelli. He was imprisoned, accused of anti-state conspiracies, and even tortured. It wasn't until the end of his life that he could justify himself and flee into exile on his parents' estate to write books that made him a household name around the world. Career in writing. It's impossible to sum up Machiavelli's political philosophy in a single sentence. Cynicism was thought to be his defining feature, one that enabled him to accomplish his aims in any manner. Machiavelli's approach toward individuals, adversaries, and opponents should be split, yet there are certain truths in this. NICCOLO drew on public opinion in her description of the perfect ruler in order to better people's lives and safeguard their freedom. Cynical policies like lying to one's enemies and treating those who want to usurp power were among his recommendations. NICCOLO Machiavelli had other ideas as well at the time. The opinions of many prominent Renaissance figures, especially those in positions of authority, were collected in his political works, such as Sovereignty and Discourses on the first 10 books of Livy. His writings expose the flaws in the interaction between rulers, people, institutions, and law, and he also considers ways to improve the latter. When he said that politics is a practical science that can help you understand the past, guide the present, and forecast the future, he is referred to as the father of political science. He also believed that the personality of the monarch was a major factor. Strong and stern leadership, he argued, was healthier for the people in the long run, and morals should only be used as a pretext. Because of the country's cohesiveness, it is feasible to prevent disintegration. However, he was not a fan of the lower echelons of the populace. When it comes to sustaining a state, he believed that only those people who were successful and politically active should be listened to, those who had the most freedom should be relied upon. His most popular subject was, what else? Politics? In his view, the best strategy for gaining and maintaining power in the state was to study the most efficient methods. He looked up to the ancient republics as a model because they embodied both a commitment to individual liberty and a respect for the rule of law. Complex power plays a major role in attaining one's own condition of independence and luxury. Even if the state is protecting its own interests, morals and rights should not stand in its way. Read the law as long as it serves the country's needs, says he. In order to protect the country's national interest or economic growth, this must be evaded. Hereditary monarchies appealed to him more than the current system. The early political science writings of the first Renaissance thinker were initially scorned. To begin with, the Roman Catholic Church was of the opposite opinion. The author's notion that any means are acceptable for a worthy cause has nothing to do with this, but rather his denial of the clergy's unique right to moral leadership has. As a result, the writings of NICCOLO Machiavelli were deemed heretical by the Council of Trent and placed on the index of forbidden books. For those who support the idea of a centralized state, however, such thinkers as Jean Bodin and Thomas Hobbes have praised him for his courage in writing the truth about what everyone has been doing for so long. When it came to elevating political power and serving its own interests above all else, Machiavelli shattered medieval ideals that humans should serve God at all times. As a separate discipline, politics acts for practical reasons and justifies transgressions of the law and immoral activities. Since Machiavelli's name was attached to the term Machiavellianism, it has come to mean dishonesty in accomplishing one's own or society's interests. Death. While in Florence in 1520, he returned to public duty as a diplomat and historian. It's been over 400 years since he passed away, and no one has ever found his resting place. Even after the author's death, his History of Florence was a huge hit among his fellow Florentines. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.